Welcome to the raw and uncensored Ambitchious Podcast. During our time here together, I will be instilling all of the strength, power, and determination you will need to use the very stones thrown at you to build your ultimate empire. We will redefine the word bitch from the derogatory to the acronym being in total control of herself. So let's adjust our crowns and prepare to live life ambitiously.
Yeah, here I am, the original HBIC, Katie motherfucking Boyd. And on today's podcast, we are going to be talking about how I get so much shit done. I'm going to blow your mind. And a lot of people may have known about this way of getting things done. Some of you may be scratching your head going, I have never heard of this in my life. And either way, whether you know about it or you don't, I'm going to shed some light. I'm going to talk about how I get so much shit done and how I really truly prioritize what is important to help me get closer to my goals and the HBIC that I desire to be. All right, let's get right into this because I am raring to go. I get so many DMs on social media. I get so many emails. And just like when I'm at my wellness center or when I'm out and about, people will always say to me like, Katie, you do so much. Like it feels like superhuman. Like how do you get so much accomplished? And remember, I'm a solopreneur. I have people that work with me, but I don't have like a full-blown team of people that are like doing my social media, doing all these different things. Everything I pretty much do myself. And then I have a couple people who are subcontractors that do things that I either A, don't have the time to do, or B, am too dumb to do it because there's a seat for every ass. And like, there's just stuff that I don't want to do. Like, I don't want to code websites and, I don't want to do a lot of tech work. That's just like not what I do. I'm a creator. And my grandmother always used to say to me, Katie, there's a seat for every ass. And what that means is there's people out there that can do the things that you don't want to do, nor do you have the time to do. Or do you really want to learn all these things? Not really, right? So the way that I get close to my goals every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year is, and I've used this probably for about 2 or 3 years now, it's called the Eisenhower Matrix. Yes, Eisenhower, like the old president. And this is how you prioritize your to-do list. So pretty much a summary of what the Eisenhower Matrix is it's a task management tool that helps you organize and prioritize tasks by urgency and importance. Using the Eisenhower Matrix, you'll divide your tasks into 4 boxes based on the tasks that you'll accomplish first, the tasks that you'll schedule for later, the tasks that you'll delegate out, and the tasks that you'll absolutely delete. Okay? That's what I said. I said delete because there's just some shit on your to-do list that is just malarkey and there's no place for it. And it's kind of a non sequitur and it has nothing to do with anything that you desire. And it's not going to get you closer to the HBIC that you desire to be. So let's first talk about making a to-do list. I don't like to call it a to-do list. I actually like to call it a to-accomplish list because doing and accomplishing, I don't know, the word accomplish to me just feels better, juicier, more sustenance, more substance, if you will. So first off, making a to-do list. It's the first step toward getting work done. We all know this. We've all made 1,000 bagillion, jajillion, trillion, tatillion, whatever the fuck to-do lists in our lives, right? But how do you determine what to tackle first when you don't have enough time to do everything in one day? Because that's what happens. And I don't know if you're like me, but I'll write down on my little sticky note. If you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, this is what my sticky note looks like. If not, no big deal. It's just a big sticky note paper. And every day I fill it out. And then what happens is I get like almost everything done on my list. And then there's just like those 1 or 2 kind of ephemeral, fleeting things on that to-do list. And then I feel like a loser because I'm like, why couldn't I accomplish all this today? Like, I have the time. What is wrong with me? And mostly the things that I don't get accomplished on those days are most likely bullshit. They're most likely things that I really don't need to do. It's busy work. It's bullshit. It's not going to get me closer to the person that I desire to be. So with effective prioritization, all of you out there in Ambitchious land, can increase your productivity and ensure that your most urgent tasks get the immediate attention that they deserve. And the Eisenhower Matrix is a task management tool that helps you distinguish between urgent and important tasks so you can establish an efficient workflow. Okay. And this is how President Eisenhower back in the day would determine what was most important for himself, for the country, etc. And, he was in the military, so he has that like very militant background, right? So like I said, the Eisenhower Matrix is a way to organize tasks by urgency and importance so that you can effectively prioritize your most ambitious work. So Dwight D. Eisenhower was the 34th president of the United States and a 5-star general during World War II. And he presented the idea that would later lead to the Eisenhower Matrix. In a 1954 speech, Eisenhower quoted an unnamed university president when he said, "I have two kinds of problems, the urgent and the important. The urgent are not important, and the important are never urgent." And then Stephen Covey, who wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you've never read or listened to that book, it's a fucking awesome book. It's one of my top 10 favorite books. And Stephen Covey took Eisenhower's words and used them to develop the now popular task management tool known as the Eisenhower Matrix. So Dwight D. Eisenhower came up with the idea through this president of the university, and then Stephen Covey took that idea and actually created a tool, which is now called the Eisenhower Matrix. So the Eisenhower Matrix is also known as the time management matrix or the Eisenhower box and the urgent important matrix. The tool helps you divide your tasks into 4 categories. Okay, so here are the categories of the Eisenhower Matrix. We're going to get more into this, so if it goes over your head, don't worry about it. But the 4 categories are as follows: the tasks you'll do first, the tasks you'll schedule for later, the tasks you'll delegate, and the tasks that you'll delete. Yeah, delete. So how do we, this is the $1 million question. How do we distinguish between urgent and important tasks? So urgent and important may seem like similar words, but when analyzing them in terms of the Eisenhower principle, the difference between the two are very crucial. Differentiating between urgent and important within the Eisenhower Matrix can help you identify which tasks you should jump on and which tasks might be better handled by a team member or someone who helps you with fill in the blank. So, urgent tasks. Urgent tasks require your immediate attention. When something is urgent, it must be done now, and there are clear consequences if you don't complete these tasks within a certain timeline. These are the tasks you cannot avoid. And the longer you delay these tasks, the more stressed out you're going to be. And the more upset you're going to feel. And no one wants that kind of experience in their ambitious life. If you keep doing these types of things over and over and over again, this is actually, in my opinion, what causes burnout. It causes burnout in work, relationships, whatever. It doesn't matter. So some examples, because people are going to always ask me okay, so what are some examples of urgent tasks? So urgent tasks may include finishing a project with a last minute due date, handling an urgent client request, or maybe fixing a busted pipe in your apartment, right? So if you're in your apartment and a fucking pipe bursts and you're like, oh, I got to go work out. I got to feed the dog. I got to do all these other things. The most important urgent thing is there's water leaking all over your fucking house. That is probably the most urgent of all the tasks. Then there are important tasks. And important tasks may not require immediate attention, but these tasks help you achieve your long-term goals. And just because these tasks are less urgent doesn't mean that they don't matter. You'll need to thoughtfully plan for these tasks so you can use your resources efficiently. So what are some examples of important tasks? So it could be planning a long-term project. Today, I started an important task because we're going to have, instead of a Bitchapalooza this year, we're going to have a Witchapalooza, where we go to a haunted restaurant and we have like a themed dinner, and we have a very famous psychic medium come and do a show. And then we're going to go to Salem and have one of the most famous witches bring us around and take us to all the haunted places and do like a full tour and do like a lot of like talk about magic and do a lot of manifesting stuff at Katie Boyd's Misfit Club. So like right now, I have to reach out to the people that own the restaurant, reach out to the people that are going to do the tour, make sure that everyone knows where they're flying into, what is on the agenda, how much it costs. I have to do all that kind of stuff. It's important. Now, this probably will be like 9 months away, but when you put on a big, important, massive event like this, it's got to be ahead of time. So it's an important thing. So another important task may be professional networking to build a new client base. It could also just be regular chores around the house and maintenance projects. And once you know how to distinguish between urgent and important, you can begin separating your tasks into the 4 quadrants of the Eisenhower Matrix. If you want to get an Eisenhower Matrix template, don't forget to sign up for the Ambitchious app for your free test. You can go right on there and download the Eisenhower Matrix template right there. Okay, so the 4 quadrants of the Eisenhower Matrix are as follows. So a long to-do list of tasks can obviously feel very overwhelming. I know personally, I get super overwhelmed when I have way too many things on a piece of paper. But the goal of the Eisenhower Matrix is to go through these tasks one by one and separate them by quadrant. And once you can see your tasks in their designated categories, you'll be able to schedule them and accomplish the most important work. Okay. So the Eisenhower Matrix, like I said, is broken up into 4. So the first quadrant is your do. Okay. So these are the things that are like, you got to do it. So quadrant 1 is the do quadrant, or the accomplish quadrant. And this is where you'll place any task that are both urgent and important. And when you see a task on your to-do list that must be done now and that has clear consequences and affects your long-term goals, place it in this quadrant. There should be no question about which tasks fall into what quadrant, because these are the tasks that are the front of your mind and are most likely the tasks that are stressing you out and like looming over your head the most. Okay, so that's number 1. That's your do. The second quadrant is schedule. So quadrant 2 is the schedule quadrant. And this is where you'll place any tasks that are not urgent, but are still important. Because these are the tasks that affect your long-term goals, but don't need to be done right now or right away. And you can schedule these tasks later. And it's really important also when you schedule these tasks to put some kind of a time constraint deadline around these tasks, because then we get into Parkinson's law, which is whatever you want to accomplish will expand in time for the time that you allot to it. So if you say, hey, this has to be done by next Sunday, then it's going to be done by next Sunday. But if you don't put a time, you could be saying you got to do it for 3 fucking years. And I know out there in Ambitchious Land, you're shaking your head right now, like you're like, oh yeah, I know what this bitch is talking about. So you'll tackle these tasks right after you tackle the tasks in your first quadrant. And you can use various time management tips, which I talk about in my book, Ambitchious. I've talked about this in ad nauseum on the podcast and on my Ambitchious app. But one of the ones that I like either could be the Pareto principle or the Pomodoro method, which are both awesome time methods. You can look into them on your own, or you can listen to past podcasts about both of them. I use the Pomodoro method. So what I do is I give myself, like, say, 3 hours of uninterrupted focused work with no phone, no dings, no dongs, no fucking, email checking, Instagram checking, Facebook, all this shit. I just put on the timer for 3 hours. I do the work. Then I take like a 45-minute break. And then I go back to the work until it's done. And I usually do that like 6 to 9 hours a day when I'm really in the flow. The next quadrant is the delegate quadrant. So this is quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 is the delegate quadrant. And this is where you'll place any tasks that are urgent but not important. These tasks must be completed now, but they don't affect your long-term goals. And because you don't have personal attachment to these tasks and they likely don't require your specific skill set to complete them, you can delegate these tasks to other members of your team. And delegating tasks is one of the most efficient ways to manage your workload and give your team the opportunity to expand their skill set. And your team, maybe your family, maybe your spouse, it may be your best friend. You may not have an entrepreneurial team. It could be someone else that sits next to you at work that's really good at something and they offered their help, And the last quadrant is the delete quadrant. That's number 4. So once you've gone through your to-do list and you've added tasks to the 3 quadrants, you'll notice a handful of tasks that are just like left over, like little scrap tasks. And these tasks are the tasks that weren't urgent and they were not important. These unimportant, non-urgent distractions are simply getting in the way of you accomplishing your goals. Place these remaining items on your to-do list in the 4th quadrant, which is delete. Yeah, that's what I said. So now I'm going to give you 4 steps, 4 kind of tips for prioritizing the tasks. So the best way to understand the difference between urgency and importance, like I said before, is to use this Eisenhower Matrix. But you still may find, and I do too, I find myself struggling to prioritize my tasks. And here are just some tips that I wanted to give you that I use to help myself and all of you with prioritization as you sort through your tasks in each quadrant. So the first one is, I love a good colored pencil or a good colored pen or a marker. I'm just that bitch. I'm this basic ass bitch. But number 1 is you color code your tasks. So color coding your tasks is an amazing tactic that can help you visualize high priority items. And as you go through your to-do list, try giving yourself 4 colors based on the level of priority. And then, you can use color codes as follows. You can use any color, but I use green, yellow, blue, and red. That's just what I do. And if I run out of red, I use pink or whatever. But the green is my highest priority items. Yellow is my second highest priority item. Blue is the 3rd highest priority. And red is not a priority whatsoever. And once you've labeled your tasks by color, these colors will directly translate into your Eisenhower Matrix. So your green tasks are your to-do tasks for quadrant 1. Your yellow tasks are your schedule tasks for quadrant 2. Your blue tasks are the delegate tasks for the 3rd quadrant, and your red tasks are your delete tasks for quadrant 4. The next thing is you want to limit your tasks to 10 items per quadrant. Any more than 10 is fucking overkill. I don't give a shit if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You still don't have that many things to do. That's just the bottom line. So even if you do have a lot of items and tasks on your to accomplish list, you want to try to limit each box to 10 items per quadrant. This will keep your Eisenhower Matrix from becoming cluttered and even more overwhelming. Because the reason why we're doing this thing is so we can take the stress down, we can take the overwhelm down, right? So you obviously can make multiple Eisenhower matrices or matrices or whatever the fuck you want, octopus, octopi, whatever the fuck. But limiting your task list to necessary action items will ensure you are beginning the prioritization process with no time to waste, okay? The third thing that I do when I'm using the Eisenhower Matrix to accomplish my goals is I make personal and I make professional to-do lists. I also use the Wheel of Life in this. I've done a podcast on that. If you haven't listened to it, I also coach on it in my Ambitchious app. But I have a couple of different to-do lists because Some of the things that I need to do are for like my personal life, my love life, my relationships. Some are for like business. Some are for Katie Boyd's Fit Club. Some are for my app. Some are for my mentorship clients. So I have a bunch of different boxes, but you want to make sure that you split them up. So another way to limit the number of items on your Eisenhower Matrix is to create separate matrices for your personal and professional to accomplish lists. Your work and personal tasks require different timelines, resources, and methods, and they'll likely require different thought processes as well. The next thing is number 4, eliminate, then prioritize. So eliminating unnecessary tasks first to effectively prioritize. With this strategy, you'll address quadrant 4 before moving on to quadrants 1, 2, and 3. And as you skim through your to-do list, assess what items you've written down that don't need to be there. In fact, 60% of our time, this is so fucking jarring, 60% of our time at work is spent on work about work. So fucked up, dude. And I know that you're like shaking your head laughing right now because like you probably do the same thing as me. So you're like working on work, and things like sharing status approvals or following up on information. And if you can quickly scratch off items, go ahead and do so. This will speed up the process, and you'll likely go through a second round of elimination on the back end, which feels so freaking good. Okay, I want to give you a little example of an Eisenhower Matrix, okay? So to get a better understanding of what tasks you may place in each quadrant of your Eisenhower Matrix, I'm going to provide some examples for you, okay? So examples of tasks that you may include in quadrant 1, which remember, quadrant 1 is your to-do. It's your most important. It's the do, right? So you may be an entrepreneur like me who's in the service industry, right? You may be a business coach. You may be a service provider. You may blog. You may do podcasts. You may do emails weekly. I don't know what it is for you, but I just kind of came up with some like little things that I do. So in my quadrant 1 is write a blog post, do a podcast, get the email that goes out about the podcast and any kind of things that we're doing at Katie Boyd's Fit Club and in Ambitchious, right? Go out on such and such a date, respond to client emails, get back to direct messages on my app or on social media. So that's like really important, especially when you're selling and you're trying to gain new clientele and you're trying to bring people into what you're doing. That's really important shit. The second quadrant is, remember, your second quadrant is what? The schedule. This is when you schedule stuff. So examples of quadrant 2 may be sign up for a professional development course, attend a networking event, or add improvements to a personal project that you've done. And then examples of tasks that you may include in quadrant 3 could be upload your blog posts, upload your podcast, transcribing meeting notes, fielding non-client emails. And last but not least is your quadrant 4, which is, remember, this is the one that you're like, delete, right? This could be working about work, attending like frivolous meetings that like, you know, are not going to get you anywhere, or sharing status approvals. And obviously, remember that it's best to have separate matrices for work and home life so you can tackle your to-do list using methods best suited for the time and the place, right? So I know this wasn't a crazy long podcast, but I wanted to share this with you because I've been getting so many, DMs and emails and just people just talking to me like at the studio, at my wellness center, Katie Boyd's Fit Club, or on the app. They're like, I see what you do every day and I see all the things that you do. And sometimes I'll even post like on my Instagram stories, like, what's my agenda for the day? And people are like, how the fuck do you get all that done? And in my head, I'm like, I don't really think that that's that much work. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so special. I'm not trying to be that way. But I look at it and I'm like, I don't really feel like it's that much work. But I think for like an average person who maybe hasn't done a lot of this self-development work on themselves, that can be very overwhelming. So I always want to share the tools and the tips that I'm using that help better my life, in the hopes that you listen to this and it inspires you and you do a deeper dive into the Eisenhower Matrix and you start doing it for your own business and your own home and your own whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? Because not everyone here is a business bitch. A lot of people have like careers and jobs. They're not entrepreneurs, right? They don't work for themselves. They have a boss, they have managers, or sometimes they're stay-at-home moms, which that's a full-time job in itself, right? You're homeschooling your kid, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're gardening, you're taking care of your husband, you're taking care of the kids. I mean, I don't know. Everyone here is so different. Maybe you do like 4 or 5 different things. Maybe you have like 6, 7 side hustles, but it doesn't matter what you're doing and who you are. But prioritizing things that are important and prioritizing things that are urgent, and knowing that you have the power to delegate out to people that actually are good at the things that you're not good at or don't have the time to do or don't want to do. And then really being kind of ruthless with your schedule and being like, half the shit on my to-do list is it's just busy work and it doesn't need to be done. It actually, if I do this or I don't, it's not going to get me closer to the person I desire to be. And it feels good just to take that red pen and just go fucking no and put it in that delete box and just be done with it and never think about it again. And it frees up so much space in your brain for the things that truly matter. So I hope that this was a great little inspirational podcast. I hope that you come over to the Ambitchious app and dive deeper into the Wheel of Life and the Eisenhower Matrix and get your PDF to print out so you can start doing this on your own. And if that's not in your cards right now, go and search the Eisenhower Matrix and go a little bit deeper into what I just taught, because I'm really just skimming the surface. But I always have these people asking me like how I do what I do. And it's like, well, it's not that hard. It's just a little box with 4 little boxes in between it. And that's what I do. And I hope it inspired you. And I hope that you take this and you utilize it and it helps you reach your goals. So in the meantime, if you feel like this was an inspirational podcast, you got a lot of value out of it, please share it out. Obviously, we don't have anybody telling us to wear rubber underwear, and I'm not selling mattresses or nipple tassels or, butt plugs on here, even though I could. I have people that come to me every day that want to sponsor my podcast, but I don't really want people telling me what to say and what to do. So that's why we don't have any sponsors here on the Ambitchious Podcast. But the one thing that I ask for you to do is share this podcast out with as many people as you can, because Ambitchious truly is a movement and I can't do it alone. I'm really relying on all of my Ambitchious from all across the globe to share this out and inspire other women to step into their power, remember who the fuck that they are, and be their most ambitious selves. So like I always say, don't forget to stay ambitious, and I will see you next Tuesday.